If you guys are taking your NCLEX or close to it, uh-oh, my face paused. Sorry. My Wi-Fi always says it's great. I started. It's like, what the? Welcome in, guys. With me today is Professor Allison. She has been a nurse for over 10 years and a nursing professor. Now she travels the country helping students pass their NCLEX and ATI exit exams and all the things. So she's here with us like every single week. We do webinars. So if you guys didn't know, we also do NCLEX webinars every other week. And so if you still haven't taken your NCLEX, if you have, or you're coming up to taking your NCLEX, we would love to be your study plan, study schedule. But let us know where you guys are coming from. Tell us if you graduated yet. Tell us what school you graduated from or you're close to. Maybe you just joined this podcast. I'm sorry, joined this webinar. I was just doing a podcast like literally 5 minutes ago. But maybe you just joined this webinar right now and just taking a peek. But let us know where you guys are from. I see we have 89 people here.
We love seeing where everyone's from and whatnot. Additionally, we'd actually love to take a poll and see a little bit more about you guys, what areas that you guys are interested in, and get a little bit more about kind of information about you. We're going to also find out what areas you're interested in and whatnot. We'd love to know where you are in the process. If you're just starting applying for jobs, if you've already started, we're interested in hearing it all.
This is really cool. I love these new polls that we're doing because we can actually specialize and customize a webinar for you guys based on what you guys want to see.
Mhm.
This is really cool. Everyone's excited to be here, apparently. There's a yes and absolutely.
Awesome. Well, then we have another one. So the other one that we would like to know is what setting are you interested in? So, love that the fact that that we have so many of you guys that are absolutely welcome or absolutely excited to be here and excited to be here. And so
Yeah.
now we want to know even a little bit more. So now we want to know what nurse setting interests you the most. Where are
This
you
is
thinking? And it's okay if unsure is also an answer, or you can select more than one. So whatever you're interested in, we love to hear about it.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, aesthetic nursing is like Botox, cosmetics, nursing education, professor. Health coaching is a new trend that I keep on seeing. It's like becoming someone's like health coach. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the stuff that I've seen is like blending holistic health with like functional medicine, which is kind of cool.
And
Um,
also, just an FYI, we're getting the chat figured out. I know a lot of people are putting the Q&A. I see someone from Nigeria prepping for NCLEX. Really neat
nice.
guide on how to pass NCLEX.
Okay.
Definitely tomorrow we have one of our webinars is to help with that as well. So we're a full service shop here. Help
We
you
really
pass NCLEX, help answer all your job or all your questions about getting a job.
uh Well, it's funny because like the reason why we're doing this right here, guys, is you all know and like the simple nursing videos, right? That's probably how you found out about us and ended up here. And so simple nursing helps you through nursing school, right? And then we also created an NCLEX product to help you through your NCLEX
Mhm.
with question banks and all the webinars that we do. So it would just make a natural sense that we'd help you start your career. And that's why we just launched the new graduation prep course. Oh, sorry, I'm not even going through this. I introduced ourselves already. But this is the reason why we started and launched a new grad membership prep course,
Mhm.
which basically is kind of like a simple nursing version. We've already helped you through nursing school. So we made 30 videos that goes over everything from a skills refresher library to career guidance to what does an
Mhm.
NP do to career pathways. I want to become a CRNA. I want to become a nurse practitioner. And we bundled it all up, and it's great. We interviewed some top hiring managers from Ivy League hospitals like City of Hope, Cedar Sinai,
Mhm.
and we got scenes footage of what do you actually. Oh, I'm freezing again. We got from the horse's mouth. It's like, what do you look for in hiring? What are the questions you ask? Why do you ask those questions? And so we bundled it all up into this nice, neat package called the New Grad Prep Course. So if you're scared about starting your career, we got you guys covered. And we do have a, oh, there's even more context. Whoops. This is a better visual representation of what you guys get. So we're really excited to launch this. And this is the reason why we're doing this here, to help you guys in your career. And we do have a discount code at the very end of this presentation. So yeah, it's going to be great. Okay, so before I get into what to expect for this session, what did we decide here? What do we got? So we see a lot of bedside nursing on our poll.
Mhm.
We have
Seeing the chat, we have a lot of Florida
nursing. Let's see.
representation tonight. A lot of New York
All right.
representation.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of nurses in New York.
Oh, someone from Ohio. I'm in Ohio right now doing boards prep for school. I don't know if where you are in Ohio is raining buckets right now, but I just got caught in a downpour. Uh, but incredible.
Yeah. So according to the poll that we have, it looks like a lot of people want bedside, 63% to start out. The
Wow.
next highest one was public health nursing, 33%. I didn't even know that that was a thing that people really wanted to get into as a new grad. That's really interesting. I thought aesthetic nursing, which is number 3 on our list, the Botox and cosmetics, I thought that'll be like, number 1. Yeah, just because all my friends are getting into it. But anywho, guys, we're going to touch on the top 3 that you guys voted for, and we'll be sure to lay into that more heavily inside this career night webinar. But real quick, what to expect from this session? Again, as mentioned before, Simple Nursing helped you through nursing school, but there's no one out there that really helps to onboard you in a systematic way. Like, not the big guys, the big question banks out there. Everyone kind of just like, you pass the NCLEX and we're gonna just leave you to dry. It's like now you're free as a baby. It's like, what do I do next? So we're gonna today walk you guys through real challenges about. Sorry, we're gonna get real about the challenges of transitioning from nursing school to the real world. And this is why we interviewed the behind the scenes footage of new grads just like you and getting real advice from them. And that's why, again, that's why we packaged it all into this career jump starter or new grad prep course. So anyways, there's so many nuggets and I'm so excited for that. Because the one thing that you guys are going to find, and this is just a theme as a new grad, your first year as a nurse, you don't feel confident as a nurse, and you can either get bitter or you can get better. And a theme is that your first few months as a nurse, you can have this negative self-talk, and you can just beat yourself up and say, I'm dumb, I'm never going to get this. But you can always switch that and always say, like, I'm new, I'm not dumb, I'm just new, and I'm going to get better and better every single day. So that's what we're doing here, guys. We're going to be talking about expert advice on pros and cons and opportunities in nursing away from bedside as well. And then, as mentioned before, we're doing Q&As. So post your question anytime, but don't post it in the chat. Post it inside of this Q&A button that is somewhere attached to the chat.
It's so the Q&A, you'll see the chat at the bottom the chat's to the bottom to the left, the Q&A to the right. We love chatting with you guys and reading where all you guys are from. I see we have someone from Ghana. I believe that feels like one of the first times we've had Ghana, but I could be wrong. We always have such a good representation from really all over the globe. I see we have a lot of Canada tonight, so welcome everyone. But so yes, if you have specific questions, pop that into the Q&A. Just because the chat can get so populated, we don't want to lose your question. And we have specific spots where we will have time to make sure we get all your questions answered to the best of our ability. We are here to help and support you. And I see we have a variety, some people who passed the NCLEX quite some time ago, some people who are getting ready to pass the NCLEX, some people who have passed and are looking for jobs. And so no matter where you are, we are here for you, and know that wherever you are right now, I love the phrase, here is on the way there. Because
Ooh.
sometimes things don't happen the way that you want or with the timing that you want them to. But know that where you are right now, you're still on the path to where you want to be. So here is still on the way there. But yes, no, I love this poll and seeing all the and getting all the feedback from you guys.
Yeah, I love that too. And it's so funny you say that, Alison, because it's like I think so many times our psychology can just beat us up, especially for high achievers. We expect more out of ourselves, right? And that can definitely turn toxic in our head.
Hmm.
Um, so that happens a lot with new grads. And I just want you guys to know, just like Allison said, it's like in a different way. It's like there was a moment in time you were praying to be right here. There was a
Hmm.
moment in time praying to pass your prerequisites and get into nursing school. And then there was a moment to pass, like, oh my gosh, I really need to pass nursing school. And now, majority of us here, we're here because we're almost at the end of our nursing program. So just be proud of yourself, guys. This has been a
And
long
I
journey.
remember for so long, sometimes it's just, I can't wait to be done. You go from, I can't wait to be done with this paper, this exam, to I
Mhm.
can't wait to be done. And then it's like, once you check off a box, we forget to celebrate those things. Those things that at one point we couldn't wait for. And now it's like, well, now I can't wait for the next thing. Now I want the next thing to happen. And so we're here to support all of those next steps.
Yes. And so a few housekeeping items. Again, Q&A button, drop it in anytime. We'll save it and answer it live. If you're joining from YouTube, our YouTube people, please submit your questions in the comments below. And everyone asks this question, is this going to be recorded? Well, yes, we are recording this
Hmm.
and we will send it out to you guys via email. I believe we might be posting it on social media, but don't quote me on that. But we are recording it. So that is what we're here for. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into what the heck is beyond bedside nursing. Man, this poll is like blocking my vision. It's
Sorry,
like,
I shared the results, but then I took it down so that way it doesn't block everyone's vision. You can always minimize it,
oh no, it's
and
good.
then
It's good.
we're also going to find out at the end. We want to see if like anything has changed based on what we talk about tonight, and so we love getting this feedback because again, we truly do listen to it and try to gauge what it is that you guys might be interested in, so that way we can continue these things forward and make sure that we're covering topics that interest you and help you guys get to where you want to be.
Yes. On that same thread, everything we do here at Simple Nursing is created for nurses by nurses like myself. Because when Professor Allison and I were creating this new grad course, I was like, what would I really want as a new grad? And then we just took surveys of like, what do new grads
Mhm.
really want? And after doing that multiple times, we curated this new grad prep course. And it was just like, it's my little baby. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. It took me a few years to do it. So, anyway, um, let me see here. So, what did people want again? They wanted number one was bedside nursing, right?
Oh, number one seemed to be bedside. Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
yeah,
Then we're on
number
the best
one
one.
coming out 60% now. So I ended the poll, 60%
All
was
right. Wow.
bedside nursing. And then come tying for number two, aesthetic nursing. So I think once you mentioned it, then people are like, oh yeah, wait, no, of course. And I love someone said bedside's where the money's at. Or not bedside. Well, bedside can be where the money's at actually. But
And
aesthetic nursing.
yeah,
Um, it's so funny, I think, especially because that really wasn't as much of a thing, at least not something that was on the top of minds at all in when I was in nursing school, as much as it is such a hot topic now.
yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like Botox and cosmetics is becoming a trend. But again, we keep on getting distracted. Bedside was our number one here. So here's the pros of working bedside. Maybe you guys, I saw a lot on the poll. A lot of
Mhm.
people just want to jump into cosmetics, or you might want to jump
Mhm.
into something else. But there are a lot of pros for working at bedside. Number one is the work-life balance. Many non-bedside roles, like I'm gonna say like outpatient and Botox centers, 9 to 5, and weekends and holidays off. So
Mhm.
that's an interesting thing. I personally like to cluster my care or cluster my work and be like, I'm just going to work for 3 days and I get 4 days off. The next thing is the reduce physical strain without long hours on your feet and lifting patients. Those are some pros working away from bedside.
Mhm.
Um, if you want to mention, sorry, if you want to go through the next three, Allison.
Of course, of course. I see some people say, and that's why I think nursing is so incredible because there's so many different components and facets. And if you hate 9 to 5 and that's why you want to work bedside, that makes complete sense. Like Mike said, a lot of people, especially if you like to travel, clustering, days together so then you have longer spans of days off without having to take PTO, and use a PTO day. But then also definitely if you're someone, for some people, if you have families or if you need to have a 9 to 5, and that's an option as well as for nurses. Other things is that there are times where you can have in nursing have more professional autonomy, making independent decisions, managing your own caseloads. Because even I felt like so often I thought that when I was in nursing school, I thought we were just basically going to be receiving orders, carrying out those orders. But especially if you're someone we had about, 30 or 26% said that they were interested in case management. And even public health nursing, a lot of times you get more autonomy because you're working a little bit more independently, managing caseloads, sometimes running clinics and whatnot, or doing health fairs. Other things is that there can be, if you're not bedside, you can have reduced emotional stress, burnout, because you have less direct critically ill patients. Because lots of times that heavy load, especially we've seen it a lot during COVID, there was so much nurse burnout during COVID because of that strain of caring for people who are so sick. And they always talk about, when does the caregiver get care? And so, especially like having more of a 9 to 5, getting weekends off, getting holidays off regularly, that can help to reduce some of that emotional stress. So, I even know people that will do bedside first for a little bit and then switch over to the 9 to 5 to, get the experience or whatnot. And then they can also bank hours of PTO and get that time off and be able to leave work at work. Also, because of things like doing public health nursing, you can feel like you're actually like helping your area and your community or helping populations that are underserved. And so oftentimes that can have such fulfillment that, even there are some feelings that money can't give you. Yes, getting a paycheck's wonderful, but sometimes even the best paycheck in the world doesn't make up for some of the strain, stress that can be endured, in some of the ways that you can feel just absolutely emotionally, physically depleted. So feeling like you're actually helping other people and helping large populations or even underserved populations can help to provide a lot of fulfillment and increase job satisfaction. Oh, and then someone said, and now that hospitals think that we survived COVID, but they kept the same ratios. It's like during COVID, there was a shortage plus so many patients, so they put these ratios, then that never lifted off. So, one way to,
That's
especially if you have
yeah.
burnt off of that, then this is a way to help relieve some of that.
Yeah, and as Professor Allison said, I'm like, guys, a side note here. We come into the nursing field bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking it's going to be kind of like, Grey's Anatomy. And a lot of people come into the, nursing school like that. And we kind of don't see the full scope because we have to go through clinical and we don't really even do
Mhm.
pills, right? Like no one's really started an IV or maybe even done a Foley in nursing school. And so something to really be repaired. If we're talking number one, your number one choice is to go bedside. You have
Mhm.
to understand that. So most new grads get really burnt out. The statistic is 5 years at bedside, 50% of the people who start as a new grad won't be there anymore. They'll
Mhm.
be in talks, they'll be in outpatient, they'll be in education. And it's sometimes from burnout. It's a lot of it times from, kind of being there, doing that. It's like, okay, you kind of get bored from it. And that's the beauty of nursing because you can
Mhm.
start somewhere, but you don't have to commit for 30 years of a career doing that one
Mhm.
special if you don't want to. So yeah, the world is your oyster. Jump into bedside, but always know that you need at least 1 year of experience at least before you can change a department. That's a big recommendation that I've always seen. So keep that in your back pocket. So yeah. All right. So here are the cons of working away from bedside. So there's less direct patient care. And let me know if you guys hear any back noises. There's a lawnmower and stuff outside. But there's less direct patient care that can be disappointing for those who find it fulfilling for hands-on care. Just like I said, Grey's Anatomy, right? I wanted to work in the ER. I worked as a tech in the ER and I loved it because I'm so ADHD, but I'm also like an excitement seeker. And anything could happen, right? It's like people can get, stabbings or gunshot wounds or heart attacks, and you're just like, whoa. And I really wanted that until it became too much. And after 7 years of doing that time and time again, I'm like, I need something that I need to change, you know? Number two, the potential for isolation. I feel this definitely now because I work from the computer now and I've developed course curriculum and I don't have the family that I did in the emergency room, you know? You have
Mm.
like that, well, some like, what is it called? Like a team or like, how would you describe it? There's a word for it. You have like a
Pod?
crew, family, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so now you're gonna, if you work independently or you do remote work or you're a caseworker, you don't really have those bonding experiences. And you guys are gonna notice this in nursing school that the people that you've studied with, the people that you went through war with in the trenches and just like,
Mm.
you know, did those late night study sessions with, and you just were focused on passing and the anxiety and the scare. Once you become a nurse, there's going to come a time where you're like, man, I miss those guys. It's like you guys went to war together, and it's like you had a family. And so all I'm saying is like enjoy the moments. Like we're so forward thinking that we want to get to the next milestone, and we forget that the joy is in the journey. Um, and so just remember that, you know. Number
I
three
know
is
Anna said in the chat. Anna said it really well in the chat. Trauma bond.
oh, trauma bond. Yes, that's exactly. You're going to be a definitely trauma bond as a new grad as well. It's because new grad nurse, I've heard if you're going to go into the ICU immediately, I've heard the first 3 months you can't, you'll go home and still hear alarms in your brain. Like I've heard it from
Right.
multiple. It's crazy, man.
The amount of times I would almost be asleep and then I'd swear I'd hear an IV alarm, swear I'd hear a call light going off. But I think that also happened when I worked in a restaurant for a while. I'd hear the ticker of drinks coming through.
Uh-huh.
So definitely sometimes there's that trauma of even this just the triggers of the high activity, of all the,
Yeah.
constant stimulus you get sometimes. Alarm fatigue. Yes, absolutely. All those things, absolutely real.
Yeah, exactly. So just be aware. And these are the little things that no one tells you about. Like all the other question banks and NCLEX preps, they just drop you off and now you're in the wild. So
Mm.
again, this is why we specifically handcrafted this new grad prep course for you guys because we want to tell you the real deal and we put it all into 30 modules, 30 videos that are simple and you guys can get CUs for it. But again, I'm just talking so much about it because it's like my pride and joy. It's a newborn and we just launched it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, the third one here before I hand it over to Alison is what I talked about before. Limited immediate impact. For example, I worked in the ER, right? Someone comes in with a heart attack, I can treat them, I can do my best, and we can sometimes save their life.
Mhm.
And you see that immediate impact. You see the family crying for joy, and that's just like intrinsically it makes you feel so good. But again, if you're working paperwork and you're doing casework or case study, or you're doing education,
Mhm.
or some, you don't really get those quick results, if you know what I mean. So, or if you're just working at outpatient and someone's just going in for routine, whatever, it's just
Mhm.
different. So, yeah. Um, but yeah, let me hand it off to you and let's talk about limited skills. Oh, limited skills is a big one.
Yeah, so there can be some cons, but I feel like no matter what you're doing, it's still work. The reason you get a paycheck is because nothing's perfect, you know? And so some of the cons could be that you get limited skills that you get to practice. So things like some things can get a little rusty, like IV insertion skills, inserting in G tubes, things like that. And oftentimes there can be more of the administrative tasks. That can be a con, but there are people who also think that's a pro. So it all kind of depends. And so that's one thing that like someone could see as a pro, someone could see as a con, especially if something, clinical skills is not something that was always your strongest suit or whatnot. Or if you've just been doing it for so long, you're a little burnt out and are ready for a little bit more of that administrative work. Also, there's
Mhm.
oftentimes there can be a more competitive job market because of for some non-bedside roles. Like lots of people like to be a legal nurse consultant or sometimes nursing education. It can be more competitive. Although we do always need nurse educators, as I know all too well. We're always short-staffed, or we're always, need more people there. But that's always a great option for even as you go along. Because the great thing about nursing is someone said in the chat, or maybe it's the Q&A, that they want to do 1 year bedside. And that's great because then you do get to practice those clinical skills, but you still have the option to then switch over and, get a chance to then do more administrative stuff. Or then you have a little bit more marketability if you want to go for some of those more highly competitive jobs. And also, there's oftentimes it could be less physically taxing because of things that require a little bit more administrative work, a little bit more desk skills versus when you're on the floor, bedside, boosting patients, putting in miles upon miles of steps that your Apple Watch is telling you about. You're hitting those 10,000 steps plus every day just going to work,
Yeah.
which can always be, I knew someone who got injured, actually, not even on the job. They were in a car accident. And because of that, and because of the longer term effects that those had, they were able to then transfer from doing bedside nursing, which became too difficult for them, too hard on their body, to then still being able to use your nursing degree and nursing skills, but transition to something else. So, it's always like there's different stages of your life, different things that happen. And so, that can be a con, but that can also be a pro for some people. Some people, if you like being physically active, you don't like sitting in a desk, or if you have, like Mike and I feel like we both have a little bit of ADHD, ADD, and so sitting still is not our strong suit. And so that could be a con if you're someone that's like, desk work is something that I struggle with.
Yeah. I mean, I could never, I always tell myself if I was forced to be like in an office, in a desk, away from people, like that would be like the worst job for me. And I kind of have that feeling now-ish, but I mean, I get to work around people and be present more with my family and my parents, and also like I have like a great little co-working space. But anyways, it's great. I think one of the things that we didn't mention here that Nurse Joe mentioned was that bedside a lot of times can pay a lot of money. And you can work overtime, and just be careful with that. We talk about that in the new grad prep course of how to manage yourself as a new grad, because a lot of times nursing managers are going to just try to get you to work a crap ton of overtime, and that's how you get burnt out. And a lot of people don't know this, and so you kind of just float downstream, and you get burnt out of nursing in your first 6 to 9 months, and you're like thinking like, why did I even want to do this in the first place? So again, we include a lot of nuggets in that new grad prep course. That's just one of the many tips. But sorry, I was going to wrap that up with the point. Oh, but the pay is actually really good. And a lot of people get that 1 year of nursing in that department, and then do travel nursing, and sometimes get double or triple the pay in that bedside. So again, just another reason, another pro of bedside, which is great. So yeah. But now we have all these little slides: telehealth, case management, aesthetics. You guys chose bedside, which we just covered. What was number 2? It was aesthetics, right? Let's see here.
Yes, yes.
Because it's like feels like Family Feud. Survey says. Good. All right.
Yes,
Oh, somebody
aesthetic
get.
was tied for number 2 with public health nursing.
That's so interesting. I didn't know there was a huge demand for public health in our little group here. That's really cool. So let's do aesthetic nursing first, and then public health next. Let's see here. Oh, wow. Telehealth is number 4. Interesting. Okay. All right. So we all know about Botox nursing. I have so many friends that started bedside. And it's so funny because the statistic is true, at least in my world. I have about a dozen nursing friends, and the average time that they would leave bedside was about 5 to 7 years. And 4 of those friends either work in a cosmetic office or started their own. And it's not always greener on the other side. I've had a lot of friends that kind of like, was working in the ICU, burn out for these 12-hour shifts because they're doing it for 7 years. And they just have this pie in the sky idea that, wow, I'm going to be in a Botox center with my name on it, and it's going to be all rainbows and butterflies. But what you really don't know is if you want to open your Botox center, there's a lot of bills, there's a lot of overhead. You're starting from the ground up. You have to be into sales. You have to be into marketing. You have to market yourself. There's like a big underbelly that no one talks about. So that was kind of a synopsis, but let's go into the pros and then we'll go into the cons. So the pros is high earning potential once you create, the machine and you get it right. If you work for a plastic surgery office, we're talking higher salaries, bonuses, tips, and you also get holidays off, which is kind of cool. You don't really get that in the hospital setting or the bedside setting. Plus, there's a growing stream of clients, and we're talking a booming industry. And so, if you get good at it and people know you, like you, trust you, and you get a good following or a good clientele base, you can be very lucrative. But remember, it just takes a little while to get there. So it's not going to happen overnight. It also allows you to add your own creativity to your nursing practice by blending clinical skills with the aesthetic industry. I know of a few that offer IV therapy with, Botoxing, which is really interesting, and also even some longevity stuff because people who go to aesthetic places, they want to look younger. That's why they're there. So I know of a few peptide nurses, NAD injectors for longevity, really big industry that's growing right now. And then number three is building long-term client relationships. I think that's one of the most interesting. Like my friend Nurse Brenna, who does Botox and has her own studio in California. She's like, man, I love my patients. She even does Botox parties for them. And she's like, round them up. All my best clients, I'm gonna give them big fat discounts if they show up on the same day, and I can just inject them all like little ducks in a row. But she's like those little things, because in the hospital setting, you only see a patient for like, in the ER, it's only a few hours. In the ICU, it might be weeks, or other departments. But we're talking long-term, years and years and years of seeing the same clients. So those relationships build, and it's really cool. It becomes like a little family here. So now let's talk about the cons here. But again, before I hand it off to Alison, I've seen it with my own eyes. People going in having no clue of like the heavy workload it's going to take to have your own Botox center. So just remember, I would recommend working and walking into a med spa and just working as an injector first and seeing what it's like before you jump into all the craziness of what it's like to start a new business. So, anyways, I'll kick it over to you.
So some cons is that it could require, additional training as well as like hours that you have to put in with certification. Lots of times you have to shadow, put in a certain number of, essentially similar to what we have to do for clinical hours. And that sometimes can be at your own cost. There are sometimes I have heard of people who do get it either covered or partially covered if they've already been like working at, some type of a health spa or med spa of sorts. Oftentimes some of that can get subsidized. But it can be additional cost, time, training, in addition to, all of the nursing school you've already done. But because it's so specialized and because it's not particularly focused on in nursing school so well, and they want to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing, especially when it comes to doing things to people's aesthetics, because if they want you to do something, to their face and whatnot, oftentimes they can be very picky, and so they want you to be very good at it. And so a lot of that training is for a reason. And so that goes hand in hand to it could be a high pressure environment and potential high stress from high client expectations. If they want something really specific, or maybe they could even be asking for something that might be difficult to achieve. And so they have a big ask that could be stressful. And so that could be another con. Also, it can be competitive in a lot of markets, especially in certain cities. There can be a lot of competition. And especially if it's too saturated in an area that you're in, or already pretty saturated, it can be difficult to build that initial client base, especially if a lot of people that who go and get Botox already have their person or any injections, they have their person they go to. And so some people may be a little bit weary about letting someone who's newer at it have an attempt. Some people have no problem with it. I know lots of people who, especially if you're willing to cut down a little bit on the cost, or if they get some type of deal, then they're absolutely happy to let you practice on them or train on them or whatnot, or be some of your first clients. So that can be something that can be sort of offset. But oftentimes, you are a little bit of an entrepreneur of sorts in the fact that you have to build your client base a little bit, and build your own almost portfolio of sorts, as far as like have people are happy. Lots of times, word of mouth, or even people posting about a great job that you did. But that can take a little bit of time. And so then, also, there can be less diversity in nursing skills that are used day to day, because you might be doing the same thing all day. You might be doing just a bunch of Botox injections one day. You might be doing the same thing. So it's not like you're getting a variety of different skills. And so it just depends on the person. That could be something you absolutely love. And especially if you're passionate about it, that could be no problem at all. But if you're someone that, if you like diversity, it keeps you on your toes, you like having to do multiple different things, then that could be something that would be, a drawback for you.
Yeah, that could definitely be a con. And I've heard it a lot from a lot of my friends who have failed at starting a nursing a Botox studio. So for anyone interested in aesthetic nursing or becoming a Botox nurse, specifically getting into it and having visions of owning your own business, again, um, really do some hearts, what's it called, some soul searching, and really ask why.
Yeah.
Do you really just enjoy the technique of working on someone's face, and does that bring you joy? Or do you want to do it from more like a revenue aspect of, getting money? Because those two different things. And I've seen it with my own eyes. My good buddy I graduated high school with, his wife got into it and had those grand visions. She's they spent over $150,000 that they just wasted. They wanted to get a reverse mortgage on their house. And I'm like, guys, what are you doing? She's like, but I just love the injecting part. And I'm like, work for someone else. You
Right.
don't like to do marketing. You don't like to do overhead. Work for someone else. It was never about owning a business so just, it's like the ER, right? Like I like the ER because I love action and excitement, and it was great for me. Don't force yourself into something because of the money. You know what I mean? So hopefully that makes
And
sense.
someone's in the chat also, finding a job offer for an entry level aesthetic nurse can be really challenging. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I always recommend shadowing. You can just like follow, a nurse around. Like maybe you can make friends with one of them. Or a better option, if you just want to dip your toe, is to work in a plastic surgery office, because they usually double. There's plastic surgery, which is kind of like OR, but there's also almost everyone I've seen does Botox and aesthetics as kind of like an add-on. So it's kind of cool to dip your toe. Let's see what's next here. What do we got? Are we going into, what was it again? Public health?
I believe that's the next one. Nurse education.
Oh,
Oh,
nurse
here,
education.
here we go. This is my bread and butter.
Wait a minute. This was number 4 on the list, or number, whatever number we're at. This is the next one on the list.
Or so this is the next slide, I guess.
Oh, I mean, we can do that. I was going by the poll, but anyways.
But we
Um,
did have a question from YouTube, which I want to answer before it leaves my brain. So someone graduated and they've been a school nurse since. Any recommendations to sharpen clinical skills, as not ready to go bedside yet, but potentially want to sharpen those skills? Oh, Mike, we got a great opportunity for that.
sorry, one more time. What was the question itself? Sorry,
Uh,
I just.
Sharpening clinical skills.
Oh, okay. Sharpening clinical skills in what context? Are you talking
Uh,
about
they've been
before?
working as a school nurse, so before potentially going bedside.
Oh yeah. Okay. This is funny you guys say that, because I know I don't mean to preach and be all salesy with you guys with this new grad prep course, but it's so cool what we're doing. So get this, like I had a vision of this in the past. I was like, what if we had like the Netflix of nursing with a marketplace of like new grad prep course,
Mhm.
how to become career pathways, all these things, almost like Netflix, if you will. Um, and we're in works of standing up this next platform that is basically kind of like transitions in practice. We're going to give you all the clinical skills, basically a crash course on not just skills, but the behind the scenes look at all the other soft skills that you need. Hard skills are like, the actual doing of Foley's and stuff, but soft skills of like how to talk to patients, how to talk to doctors, how to like get into the flow and what to expect from preceptors that train other nurses how to be successful on that floor. So that's still in the work. But if you're just looking for practical advice right now for school nursing transitioning into bedside, one of the biggest things that I would recommend is shadowing. If you can find someone or somewhere that, or a friend that you can shadow and see, because I hear this a lot. I hear a lot of people transitioning where they think that the grass is always greener on the other side. And when you actually get hired and do all the paperwork and go through the interviews and you actually start, and then you're actually in the soup, the first month you're just like, holy crap, like I didn't think that it was going to be like this. And I kind of just don't even want to be here. So I would say, know before you go, dip your toe in. And the best way to do that.
Well, I believe it froze just a little bit. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was on my end. Thank you. So I was asking the other host if Mike was frozen or if it was just on my end. So thank goodness it wasn't just me. So while I'm sure his Wi-Fi is just buffering a little bit, so while he's doing that, I can talk about nurse education, especially since I've worked in nursing education now for 10 years. And one is it can feel like a better work-life balance as a pro. So this is anything that you're teaching, training future nurses in either an academic or clinical setting. And oftentimes it can feel like a little bit better work-life balance because oftentimes you're going to get holidays off. You may not get weekends off, depends on what role you take. A lot of nursing programs have evening weekends now. And so oftentimes, like I teach night classes, so I work nights. I still answer emails and do work on the weekends, but I have a little more flexibility in that. I can do that from my home and do like email catch up and whatnot. And so it can provide a little bit better work-life balance than being at the hospital where I can't be on my phone and whatnot. Also, it allows the opportunity, which one of the things I love the most, to help shape future nurses and to try to inspire people to, by mentoring them and, help people achieve their goals, help people get to the thing that they've been wanting for so long, or, and lots of times even people who are second careers that they did something else and now they're coming to nursing. And there's something so rewarding with helping people fulfill those goals.
So
Also,
true. So true.
also there's paths for advancement. So you can start out as like you can start out just with a clinical group, dip your toe in the water, and do like visiting professor part-time. And then oftentimes, if you really like that, you can even grow that into and then decide to be, full-time faculty. Or sometimes there's some programs that allow you just like teach certain courses or teach one-off courses. And so you can start small and then you can always grow and go to like full-time faculty or full-time clinical instructor. And then that can even grow into leadership opportunities, being a department chair or over a whole course or help with curriculum development, or also go into leadership positions like becoming a dean over a nursing school. Some of the cons is it oftentimes requires you to do additional education. If you like just got done with your bachelor's, and I remember when I got done with my nursing degree, I was like, I am so burnt out on school. I'm done with school for a while. And
Mhm.
so that may be something you're like, I'm not ready to go back to school yet, maybe in a little bit. Because it requires an advanced degree like a master's or a DNP. And
Oh, wait, side
also,
note. I
oh yeah,
I want to give everyone encouragement too, because I joined my master's degree. There was a specialized program going from associate's degree, skip the bachelor's and go master's.
Hmm.
Only applied for a certain number of degrees, like education was one of them, informatics and other things. But I joined Walden University and I dropped out just because of what Alison was saying. I was like, oh, I'm going to get my master's. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do any of this work. So I
Hmm.
dropped out, and 5 years later, uh, the kind of programs they have now for degrees like this, a lot of them are accelerated. The cheapest and fastest at the time in 2015 was like 30 grand in 18 months. Now it's so competitive. Just ask AI for a list of the most competitive schools that are the best. Because I went to school and got my master's in 2020 at Capella for 12,000 in 12 months. And so things have just accelerated dramatically and the cost has gone down dramatically. So that's one thing to watch out for. Anyway, I'll get back.
Oh yeah, awesome. So I think that's something that so many people hear. Some people really like school. Oh, and then there's a question in the chat. Can a BS and RN get hired by a College of Nursing as a teacher for their school program? So I believe most colleges or universities require that you have one level above. In order to be a teacher, you have to have one degree above whatever level you're teaching. So potentially you might be able to, as a BSNRN, be able to like be a clinical instructor for like an potentially like an associate degree program. But in order to do for a BSN program, you'd have to have a master. So you have to have at least one level up in order to teach that degree. One of the other things, that was a great question. Thank you for sending. Another component to think about is that while some nurse educator roles can be competitive and have competitive salaries, it could be depending on, how many hours you worked, or let's say if you had a shift differential or if you like to pick up extra shifts. So it could be less lucrative in some cases, especially after figuring in if you had to go get an additional degree in order to take that job. If you're still having to pay off those bills, it may not feel like your salary increased because you're still paying something back. And so there can be, again, pros and cons. Oh, and then thank you, Nurse Joe. Also, they do have masters in teaching for those who are prior teachers. So that's also a way in which that you could still teach at a program.
I love that.
Other things is that sometimes it can be different to navigate the organizational structure of a university of academia, and there can be academic politics that can go into it, or things that you have to deal with when you work in education that you didn't anticipate, and that have nothing to do with teaching them about nursing or about patient care or about meds and the side effects and the adverse effects and whatnot. There can be other things that have to come into play, and you think, oh my gosh, this is not what I signed up for, what I was interested in. And so that can be frustrating as well.
You probably see so much behind the scenes footage on that, and you can probably,
Right.
you know, riff on that. But again, it's like, trust me, guys, anywhere you guys from Bedside's probably the worst, like in terms of like, some floors there's a clique
Mhm.
and it's like a Mean Girls, and that's all politics. And if you get on the bad side of that Mean Girl clique, it can backfire. Trust me, I've done it. I got fired from a job for doing that one time. My friend, same thing. So again, as a new grad, I think a general rule that we include in the new grad prep course is to treat your attitude when you go into a new department, especially bedside, is treat it like you're a guest in someone's house. And try to be polite, try to be as most helpful as you can. We say big ears, small mouth. And that's just one of the tips that we include that can go a long way and really help you get liked and trusted as a new grad. But again, politics happen everywhere. Nurse education is no different. And it's just a theme, I think it's just a theme of humanity kind of thing. Let's pause here and let's take some Q&As because we're running out of time. Oh, there's a fly here. And I saw some great Q&As here. Did we already answer the one about burnout?
Oh, not yet.
Oh, okay, cool. Because we had a whole segment inside that new grad prep course all about burnout, from Professor Allison's top 3 to 5 tips, and also Nurse Lauren, who was our new grad expert, or basically the most fresh new grad. She was literally had a year experience, and she's like, "This is what I did," and then Professor Allison's drawing on her 10 years of experience. But I think one of the overarching themes is, for me, the one that I pulled away that I can resonate with, out of the many tips that we include in the course, is what was it? I just lost it. Oh, is don't be bullied or don't be pressured into working overtime, like a lot of overtime, because I was kind of pressured into working a lot of overtime, kind of from both sides, because I really wanted to buy a house, and on the other side, it was like, well, I really want to help the department too. And I was working 72 hours a week at one point for a few months on end, 6 days a week. I would have 4 days off the entire month, and it was intense. And I definitely don't recommend that. But that can definitely lead to burnout. And maybe the question is, what does burnout feel like? Well, it almost feels like mental health issues. It almost feels like depression, a little bit of anxiety, a little dread for going into the department. You'll see a common manifestations of, like, fatigue, apathy, just a lack of motivation. Just like, why the bleep am I doing this? You become snarky and short, and you kind of just have to really have a heart to heart with yourself and be like, yo, either slow down, or, let's change this, because you don't want to go down the spiral. You know what I mean? So yeah. Let's see. Any other question? This little charger, man, it deceived me. It says it worked, but then it cut off, and that's my computer dead.
We had a really interesting question actually in the chat, and I've started, or in the Q&A, and so I was starting to type it, but it might be easier just to answer it. So someone asked if you have something like some type of hearing loss, and you're looking into new grad programs or whatnot, or going on job interviews. Do you have to disclose that during the interview process? And in most cases, you are not legally required to disclose hearing loss during job interviews, but in from what my understanding, under the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act, employers can't legally ask you about medical conditions, including hearing loss, before making a job offer. I believe you're only required to disclose a disability if you need accommodations or reasonable accommodations in order to perform the job duties. So I hope that helps.
Oh man, that was a great. I wasn't even thinking about that. That's very interesting. Very, very good.
Oh yeah,
And
and
I
so I
saw
think.
someone else in the chat. I think it was already answered. Oh, go ahead.
Someone said, we are going back to telehealth because I know that was one of the ones that was one of the top ones. So Mike, you might have to go back to a few slides before aesthetic
Okay,
nurse.
perfect. But before we do, because we're coming to the end of I believe we're only here for an hour, right? Are we doing longer today?
I believe today is an hour and a half.
Oh, it's an hour and a half. Oh, okay, cool. I thought we were like maxed out an hour. Okay. So just real quick for everyone that if you made it this far in our webinar, we're giving away a 20% off. You guys can get it for $79 a year here for this passport membership. And it's basically everything that you need for a new grad. So you scan the QR code and use the code GRAD20 to get your 20% off. And again, this is just to help you know before you go. The worst thing in the world that you can do as a new grad is, go in like a bull in a china shop and not really know. A lot of the, I guess I would call it shadow work or behind the scenes work that it takes, and just stumble around and really have a difficult time. So again, we kind of did it all for you. Whoopsies. And put it all neatly into this new grad mastery course with skills refresher library, career guidance, and you get CEU support. So again, this is my baby, and it's my little pride and joy that we just birthed. So let's get into public. Was it public health or was it
Well, we can do public health also because there's a question in the Q&A, and then
telehealth?
we can do both. We still have plenty of time
Yeah.
left. So, but yeah,
Oh
let's
yeah.
go into telehealth because that was number 2, or I believe it was one of the top ones.
Yeah. All right, guys. So if you guys don't know what telehealth is, it's basically your remote. You're working remote and you have your laptop and you basically just have consultations online, either the phone or your laptop. I have a few friends that do this. Usually you have to be, I believe, a nurse practitioner. I maybe you don't, but I see a lot of nurse practitioners, like my friends, specifically psych nurses and dermatology nurse practitioners. They'll have 30-minute consults on like the beach. One of my friends went to the Bahamas for 6 weeks and was just like, I'm going to do consults from the Bahamas. And it's just a great life, you know? They're just like, okay, I'm going to be on here for 30 minutes and, cluster all my appointments so I can just, do the rest, do my life with the rest of the day. So the best part about it is that right here it says it's remote care with consultations, follow-ups, and even health education on phones or video calls. So the pros is the Bahamas, right? Or that's that beach life. Eliminates the commute, offers flexibility, and you can often work from home, but you can work from a private island if they have Wi-Fi. I've had a lot of friends that just do trips and they work remotes from like South America, and they'll take 6 weeks there, whatever it is, stay as long as they want because they work remote and they're still working. So it's really interesting. Um, Obviously, it's a growing field since COVID. Everything's going online. It's an increase in demand, so that's a really good thing. And it's a great opportunity to reach patients in remote areas if we're looking at the impact that we're making. Because now everyone has access. If you have access to a phone or a digital item, you have access to high quality, care. So that's really cool. Yeah, let's talk about the cons here.
All right, so some of the cons that you might see, limited hands-off assessment and ability to be there one-to-one to help support and intervene if needed. So you can feel literally kind of limited by not being there in person. Also, it can require strong technical skills. Like if there's a Wi-Fi issue, if you start having issues, sometimes you have to be able to troubleshoot that yourself. So if you're someone that you always need help with technology, it just frustrates you, and that's not your strong suit, this would not be the best area. And so certain barriers can be really frustrating. Also, it can be harder to build rapport and trust with patients because you're not there with them in person and whatnot. And so there can feel like that barrier. And so, even working with coworkers remotely, sometimes that can be a challenge because of not just running into them in the office, be able to run things by them. So sometimes it can cause you to not connect with them in that way. And so that can be challenging to build rapport within the people that you work with, get to know the people that you work with as well as with other individual or with your patients and whatnot, and those that you're working with. And so I know there was some, for those who are interested in that, let us know. Happy to help. I know, I think Mike might have just gotten kicked out a little bit, but that's okay. I can carry forward. I know there was a question about, that was about public health nursing and how broad is public health nursing? Public health nursing can be so broad because that includes, working in a community clinic. That includes being a school nurse. So it can include lots of different areas and lots of different facets, including things like providing health promotion education. That could be including like even, doing sex ed talks, talking about, nutrition or substance abuse, especially like if you work in a school nurse setting or in some type of a, school setting and whatnot. It can also involve things like disaster response, emergency preparedness. So say if there's, last year I feel like Florida was hit with a lot of hurricanes. And so that involves public health nursing. And so you could go and help and support during those times, especially and even in pandemic responses. Also things like during COVID, remember when all these COVID testing sites popped up? But some of those things can fluctuate based on need. A lot of those, there was COVID testing sites, I feel like on every street block at one point, and now a lot of those are shutting down and turning to something else. But you could help with testing, or you could work in like a minute clinic and and do some of those similar things. Also things like providing vaccines, or even doing like health fairs. All of those things are different realms of public health and public health nursing. Oh, Mike's back. Welcome back. other things, if you're really into like policy advocacy, that's an area of public health. Like so trying to shape local public health regulations or even national public health policy. Or even things like promoting health equity, social justice, and underserved communities. And then again, there's so many opportunities with like community-based care, even doing home visits, things like maternal child health, follow-up appointments, and outreach to vulnerable populations. So very broad. There's so many different aspects that could come to play.
I love that. And sorry about that, guys. I keep on getting kicked off over here. Speaking of telehealth nursing with computers dying.
Right.
I just ordered literally a new one. This one's old and I guess it's not keeping a charge. But anyways, like, guys, the world is your oyster here. That's one of the biggest things that you'll find. Um, Public health nursing you can do for a segment in time. You can jump over to telehealth. You can, start your career in bedside.
Mhm,
So it's really that's why I'm really grateful I chose nursing, right? I was supposed to be a PA before. I was never supposed to be a nurse.
mhm.
I would actually talk people out of being nurses when I was working on the ambulance because I was naive. I didn't know what nurses did. And once I started working in the hospital, I'm like, whoa, you can do so much with nursing. So I'm really grateful that I educated myself. And that's all we're here to do with the new grad prep course and to help you guys see all the facets of nursing. Um, and let me see here. I'm going to try to share some slides for you guys, but my computer is still acting up. I wonder if I can do it from my phone. Can you do that, Allison? Or
I could share the slides. Another great question that we had,
yeah,
which is also awesome considering you just talked about birthing your baby. I feel like you're showing us, photos of your newborn.
yeah,
Anytime you talk about it, bragging a little bit, which we
humble brag.
love.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Someone said, what would you recommend if you don't know where to start? Like, or
Mhm.
if you don't know where you want to work and what's a good place to start? So I'll let you cue that one off, while I pull up the slides.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why they have the new grad prep course. No, I'm just kidding. I'm always plug. I feel like I'm plugging it, but I'm just showing off my newborn baby. No, but no, seriously. If you don't know where to start, I would recommend. It's gonna sound weird, but watching like YouTube videos of the day in the life, and we actually created a few day in the life videos in our new grad prep course.
Mhm,
Um, but honestly, the best thing is shadow work. And if you do want to work, you can be a float nurse. And sometimes it depends on your hospital. Sometimes float nurses, they need experience. But as a float nurse, you float to different departments. And so you get to see a smorgasbord or basically like a buffet of all the different departments, from med surg to ER to ICU to whatever. Now, if that's not available, then the last option that I recommend is doing what is it called? A nurse residency program, which
mhm.
is usually 3 to 6 months. They'll show you literally all the parts of the hospital, usually. And then you can kind of pick and choose from there, which is kind of cool and really nice. And again, those tips you're not going to find from a lot of people, and that's why we included them in our course. And so that's why I'm just really proud that we brought it all together in one place. So yeah.
Another great one, especially like considering sometimes when you don't know where to start or where you think you're interested in working, um, sometimes it's like you don't even know what are all the options. And so I love Tony in the Q&A said, what about being a corrections officer nurse? And absolutely, that's a great one. Because that's also helping a very specific population that, you know, regardless of what happened, it's our ethical duty to provide someone good health care, and still they to get healthcare and high quality healthcare, regardless of what their setting is, especially if they have chronic conditions or acute conditions. So that's an opportunity too. And that can come with its own pros and cons. That could be something that might be, personally, that could be something that you know, don't have a problem with or whatnot. That could be something that could personally be something that's a little bit difficult, especially, if you let's say you have a patient and you find out that they murdered someone, that could be something that could be personally challenging. But it kind of depends on the person. I actually did have a few patients when I worked bedside who would come to the hospital and they were a part of the prison system. And so they would come in and they would have an officer that would be in the room one to one with them. They were always so nice, and never any problem, which I don't know why, that's, of course, that it doesn't mean that they wouldn't be, but you know, everyone deserves to have the opportunity to be healthy, and stay healthy, and for us to provide them support in that, and to provide care and supporting their healthcare goals.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we see it all the time in the ER, prisoners will come in with the sheriff. And yeah, you're right. It is a little bit intimidating, but deep down inside, it's like, they're still human too. And
Mhm.
they actually really are nice. And now I come to think about it, I'm like, huh. Um, but it's the same thing with people with psychiatric issues, right? It's like it's not them being them, it's like the condition taking over their body.
Mhm.
So deep down inside, it's like they're a patient that needs help. So it's really nice.
And and it's a lot of times, it's like it's not our job to judge a person,
Yeah.
and it's our job to use our skills and our training to help give them quality care. And not,
Hmm.
and we don't provide good quality care because only because we like someone, or only because
Right.
what type of person we think they are or whatnot. And so I love that someone asked about that, because I think that's so incredible and something not often thought of. But definitely an area that is an opportunity.
Hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of another interesting one, working as like a factory nurse or things like that. So
Whoa.
working like as potentially like on construction sites or factories, so somewhere where people could potentially get injured, and being
Yeah.
a nurse there, that's also potentially an option. I know sometimes factories might not have someone on site because if something happens, they would send them out. And so I don't know exactly what the demand is on that. But it could be, especially if there's something that's in a remote location, where to send them somewhere else would take
Hmm.
too long, or you know, if there's not a hospital nearby or a clinic and whatnot. So that could be an opportunity.
Yes. Speaking on that thread, yeah, even like corporate health, right? Like Sherry says
Hmm.
here. On that thread, it's funny because I got an interesting job for like a season. It was like a few months where I was actually working at big festivals, and I was also working at performing arts centers and behind the scenes on movie sets. It was this company I worked with that did events, and they need medical staff. And I was like, whoa, I went to some of the most incredible shows for free, getting paid for it. I'm like, this is amazing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and and guys, you can also work like I've had a few friends who worked on cruise ships. And then a few
Hmm.
friends that this one nurse I worked with worked in the Virgin Islands as like some type of nurse in one of the clinics out there. And I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. Oh yeah, Disney nurse right there. I actually dated someone who was a Disney nurse too. That's really cool.
Absolutely. So, and especially ships is one big one. One of my very good friends works for HR for a cruise line, and it's wild. Like, especially with how big some cruise liners are, it feels like a small town, or like a town on top of a ship, because there's shopping malls and all this stuff. And, they need HR on ship. They also need healthcare providers, even for either crew members or for guests on the cruise.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, good, good. I'm gonna plug this. Well, it probably doesn't matter now. I'm like, my computer's probably dead. Anyways, I already got a replacement too. But
Um,
anyways, yeah.
so then another one that we have up, it wasn't one of the tip top, but health coaching.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who, lots of times you'll see people who are health coaches, on, sometimes self-titled, on social
Hmm.
media and
Yeah.
whatnot, and you don't really know what their credentials are. And so there is a desire to have health coaching from someone who does have a degree.
Hmm.
And so lots of times, like doing health coaching, doing that personalized one-to-one, oftentimes it'd be very flexible, where you get to set your own hours and work from home. And so you can also focus on more proactive care, not waiting for someone to get sick, but helping them to achieve their highest level of wellness. So that way they maybe don't ever get sick, so they can live their healthiest life for as long as possible, and be as healthy for as long as possible. Also allows for different opportunities so you can be an entrepreneur, be your own boss. Oftentimes you can even do independent contract work. So
Yeah.
other people might offer you to come and do, seminars or do teaching to different groups of people. And so that could be like consultant work or contract work, which is an opportunity to lend your expertise.
Yeah.
And
And oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I've known a few nurses that has actually become medical concierge. Even my uncle, who's a doctor, would work on big DJs. I think like what's his name, Afrojack. He was his medical concierge. But he's like nurses. Their nurses are cheaper, and for things that don't require a doctor all the time, um, you can find yourself in interesting situations. And this is a growing industry. I keep on seeing more and more ads that are targeted at me to become a health coach. And it's kind of like you're a personal trainer, dietitian, functional medicine, but you have that underlying degree, so people know that you're legitimate. And it's a very interesting carve out that I see that's trending. So it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Was that a low-key flex, Mike?
Well,
Targeted at you. Targeted at you, low-key flex. I'm getting
I'm just
targeted to be a health coach.
you say flex of it. No, I was kidding.
Yeah. Um,
Maybe because I love longevity and I love all things cosmetic and longevity like peptides and NAD.
mhm.
And yeah, maybe it's targeting me like, hey, you need to be health.
Yeah. Well, and someone said in the chat as well, like there are some people who, I see it a lot where some people are providing advice.
Yeah.
And it's more out of what has personally worked for them or certain things that may not be backed by science. And so sometimes there can be claims or people who are providing coaching, and they may have tons of followers, but always do your own research. Sometimes,
Hmm.
do your own research that way, especially if it's something that you're putting in your body. That's always a great advice. Oh,
Yeah.
and then someone just said that they're a nursing officer in the Canadian Army. So that's another opportunity. Working for the military
Oh
as
yeah.
as a
Sheesh.
healthcare provider.
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful opportunity. Uh,
Hmm.
but of course, always know no matter what you're doing, especially if it's health coaching. So if you're providing individualized stuff to people like one to one, make sure to protect your license. There are sometimes in some different things, if you're choosing an entrepreneur path, definitely do your research and your due diligence in regards to if you need what type of insurance you would need just to protect yourself in the event that you would need it. Hopefully, you never need it. That's why we have insurance, right? You always have insurance because you hope to never need it, but in the event something happens. Another one that's really interesting that I actually had a friend pitching me saying you should do this is you know how like pharmaceutical reps, since pharmaceutical sales is such a big thing,
Oh yeah.
apparently there's been a big push recently that doctors are desiring more so, and companies are hiring RNs. They
Hmm.
like people with the licensure, with the letters behind their name to do that education. So instead of having a pharmaceutical rep go to say like the specific example that was given was like for different types of chemotherapy, especially ones that are new, that doctors oftentimes, if it's newer, they feel uncomfortable recommending it to patients, especially if they don't know exactly how to mitigate the side effects or what to do in regards to it. So pharmaceutical companies are hiring nurses to go and give the teaching to the doctors in regards to that. And doctors appreciate hearing it from someone with credentials behind their name versus someone who they think is just a pharmaceutical rep for the company,
Hmm.
and has the company's best interest, but someone who has that education, has that background and whatnot.
That's so smart. I never even thought about that. I love how they're doing that because actually it's funny because pharmaceutical reps in the past weren't even educated. They weren't even sorry. They were educated. They weren't certified, right?
Mhm.
So they didn't have to go through years and years of schooling. They went through like weeks and weeks of just being hyper specific on one area. And then my cousin was actually she graduated from Loma Linda in California and she became a pharmaceutical rep and she was great. You have to be a salesperson, but she was
Mhm.
raking it in, man, like over 150 to 200 grand a year. But that could also be another thing you get into if you're good at sales, if you're a people's person. So yeah, that's also another. industry carve out there. So that's kind of cool.
And to kind of hit back on like the health coaching, because I
Oh
believe
yeah.
there's another area, also, and then I know there is a question about informatics that we'll get to here in just a moment. I want to finish our healthcare coaching,
Yeah.
as well. Sometimes to be a health coach, especially because lots of times in nursing school, I know, for example, when I was in nursing school, nutrition was online and was considered more of a prereq, a little bit
Yeah.
of, not say a blow off class, but kind of, and
An
actually I remember
elective. Oh
being,
no, yeah.
and
Basket
so at the
weaving.
time
Right?
I taught fitness classes and I thought, oh, nutrition's, and I took care of myself, so I thought, oh, nutrition's going to be easy, and I was so shocked by it. Was something I thought would be a breeze, so easy, and there just can be so many different components. Also, if you're anytime you're going entrepreneurial or trying to develop a client base for yourself, that can take some time. And so, especially that can mean that maybe you don't have a steady paycheck of, working bedside and whatnot. And so that means income can be variable, especially if you like lose some clientele, gain clientele. So you can have highs and lows, or maybe you have, during the holidays, people, are like, oh, hey, I'm going to take a few weeks off. And so you're not getting those billable hours during a time when you probably want some extra money, like around Christmas and
Mhm.
whatnot. So there just can be some variation. But a big component, kind of like you said about, pharmaceutical reps, lots of times it's being able to market yourself, being good at pitching sales, can go a long way in those regards.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really just about knowing yourself, right? It's really about, oopsies, sorry about that, guys. It's really about what are you good at? I think it's called, there's a term for it in like the Japanese culture, I believe. It's like I think it's dharma or something like that, where you
Hmm.
find where you're what you're talented at and your
Hmm.
purpose and passion and how to make money from it. And if you have all
Hmm.
those four, then that's when you have this like synergistic, like that's when you feel like you're living the dream job, and you're
Hmm.
living that dream life because everything's in sync. But a lot of people get disjointed because you just focus on the money or you focus on something. Oh yeah, ikigai. There you go. Okay, I was way off. But yeah, 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 and that's the
Samsonite, I was way off.
yeah, Samsonite. Exactly. But yeah, it's really just kind of like trial and error. But the more you get to know yourself and honest with yourself, and the more you really look at yourself, like what really makes me feel good inside? What makes me feel like, man, I'm good and I'm talented at doing stuff. Um, and then that's where you kind of commit a lot of your energy to. So just watch out as a new grad. Don't go after the big dollar signs. You can do it in the short term, but again, it won't bring you ultimate fulfillment, and you'll probably burn out faster than you will, and it just helps no one. So watch out. Um, okay, cool. Oh, you want me to let's see, public health nursing. What's
Mhm.
next here?
So I
We got
believe we
Q&A?
started to talk a little bit about public health nursing, but
Okay.
this is just to kind of go a little bit more. And we talked about how broad it can be. I think it might have been one of the parts where you fell off. I was answering some Q&A. But so why don't you take it on with some of the pros?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I'll take the cons if you want to take the pros real quick. There's a
Oh, absolutely.
lawnmower. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, which I kind of touched on this, like lots of times, especially, it can make you feel good to do public health nursing to have like a high impact on the people you're helping, because it makes you feel good to help those who may not be getting the appropriate resources or weren't getting the appropriate resources. And so that can have such good fulfillment and be so rewarding. Oftentimes, there's also a lot of diversity. Like you can work for a government agency, nonprofit schools. So there's so many different options to make it a good fit. And again, like just having that significant impact on underserved populations. Sometimes, again, there's some things that you don't get paid for, but it can be such a huge benefit. If you choose the thing that, like we said, the Ikaga, if you encompass something that you're passionate about, but also something you're good at, and if you can get paid for it too, that can, mean a lot as far as your life satisfaction.
Yeah, and even speaking about life satisfaction, it's like, one of the biggest cons is emotional tolling. That's one of the reasons why I left the ER. I used to work in a pediatric ER, one of the 9 ERs I worked at, and I couldn't deal with the chemo kids, like toddlers coming in with cancer. And I'm like, oh my, it was killing me inside every single time. And that's just an example of this type of like public health. which is kind of like social work. You're going to see a lot of um, struggling demographic guys, a lot of the underserved, and it might take a toll on your emotions. So yeah, just be mindful of that. I'm sorry, I kind of hijacked that from you.
No,
Were
no,
you
you're good. You're good. Because we also, talked earlier about all the different things like screenings,
yeah.
direct care, vaccinations. Lots of times you can even just either volunteer or work in vaccine clinics, especially like mobile. Well, in Chicago, we have mobile vax that, goes to different areas, like especially nursing schools for a day right before everyone has to get clinically compliant. So that's an opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
Or even working for like the Red Cross to help with blood drives.
Oh
That's another
yeah.
opportunity. And especially if, giving blood is something that makes you feel good and something that you find rewarding to, contribute in that way. Helping others give blood is another way that you can do it and potentially get paid at the same time.
Yeah, I love that. I actually gave blood just last year, and is it nor is what am I saying? Is it um the same for everywhere? They have like a big red bus and they come and get blood,
Oh,
or is that?
there can be a big red bus. Sometimes it can be like, I've seen where it can be like at a high school or at a university, a campus, and then like set up in like a, common area,
Oh yeah.
even like
Like,
in a gym, a gymnasium, things like that.
I see, I see. That's really cool. Okay, so okay, to wrap up the cons of public health nursing, again, it can be emotionally taxing, but it can also be very rewarding too. It just matters your state of mind. Because just like the ER example I gave, there were pediatric nurses that love to take care of kids with chemo, or sorry, toddlers with cancer, kids with cancer. And for them, it was like, you know what? It's a crappy situation. The family's a wreck, but I am going to do the best job as a nurse that I can do in this limited time that I have with these patients. And for them, it was like they accepted it and they kind of committed to it. For me, I just couldn't really accept it. I'm like, so really, it just depends on you. But to wrap the last two, you may have to enact change with very limited resources, very limited support. Welcome to nursing. That sounds like that's a trend or a theme. You guys are going to find yourself with limited resources and limited support and understaffing in a lot of departments. But this is just one of the examples too. It might be even more limited because of the resources and the budget allocations. Oops. And the last one here is large caseloads, navigating bureaucracy or the complexities behind all the red tape, and all the politics. And that's what I mean by funding. Usually, a lot of these things are funded by government grants or some type of governmental agency. So that might be frustrating. And also addressing the complexity of public health issues, they can lead to burnout, which we've been talking a lot about, if you don't manage it properly.
Mhm.
So again, there's a lot of signs of burnout that we include in that video inside the new grad prep course. But again, it kind of resembles signs of depression a little bit. I would say like it feels like a microdose of depression because it's like you don't like it anymore. You're done with it, and that's how
Mhm.
you kind of know if you have those feelings. Yeah. So yeah.
Another
Um.
thing Oh, I was gonna
Mhm.
say another thing could be, depending on how you're desiring to structure your life and what your desire is, a lot of times public health nurses are standard Monday through Friday, 8-hour shift. So that could be a pro or con for someone. I feel like that could really go either way if you're someone that likes to stack your schedule,
Yeah,
or if you're not. So it could be if you are someone that likes to, not work super long hours and get exhausted. So that could go both ways.
that's very, very true. Now Nurse Joe's telling us to relaunch the poll. So I think
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can do that.
okay,
And
cool.
we did have a question about as nurse informatics, so nurse informaticists. Oftentimes they are going to integrate like IT technology to try to, improve healthcare delivery and outcomes. So even things like sometimes helping to launch or manage like my chart systems. That has changed so much for us because I feel like, especially in nursing school, there's so many times you see questions about patients wanting their medical records printed out. And
Mhm.
that's less of an actual thing these days because people can go and log on to my chart and they can message their doctor right away. They can make an appointment. They can already see the after visit summary from their physician and get those notes and everything. So it's helped to facilitate a lot of communication, but so they can use that to support patient care. Using, different technology and trying to enhance the way that patients have access to their providers, have access to information about their own healthcare and their options, as well as like request medications, make appointments, and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Um, so we
Oh,
only have about 5 minutes left here. And just to remind you guys, the new grad
oh,
prep course. Oh, there you go. Again, we're giving away 20% off to help you guys on board with all the tips and tricks that I wish I had as a new grad. And again, it comes from the heart, from what I wanted to have, from what Nurse Allison wanted to have. And we're just offering it to you guys at a discount today. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that there. And let's do a poll here. Wait a minute.
yeah. So
Is
now,
this the same poll?
yeah,
Oh,
we're
there you go.
relaunching the poll. We want to see if it changed.
Nice. This is a good idea. I didn't even think about this. This is cool. Let's see if anything changed here. Feel like Family Feud. And survey says, all right. This is so cool. All right, hold on. Be right back.
Like maybe I didn't sell the pros of health coaching as well. Seems like it's a little bit trailing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Did I scare anyone away from Botox? It's just real talk, guys. It's just real talk, It's like you got to know
There,
before you go,
there
So
is
that's fun.
no wrong answer. Like
There
whatever
is
you
that.
want to do, there is no wrong answer because everyone has a variety of like things that interest them, things that make them fulfilled, what they need for their life in order for like finances,
Yeah.
what they need as far as income to live on, because different places have
Hmm.
different costs of living. So it could be
Yeah.
that something really interests you, but that just won't support your needs if you have a family, if you have to pay back loans, anything like that. So it could be you're interested in that later on, but not
Oh, yeah.
just yet.
Okay, so we have a lot of Mother Teresa's in the house tonight. You guys are sweethearts. Look at this. Public health nursing, 42%. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
You guys have heart of
Uh,
gold here. And then we have telehealth nursing. Looks like a lot of people want to be in the Bahamas. Maybe that was a selling point. Wow, it's funny how things change, right? And this is why we're saying it's better to know before you go. We try to do the best job we could with the new grad prep course to give you guys all the behind the scenes because you can see how this entire poll changed and once you know what's on the other side of that veil. And we try to do our best to bring down that veil in this prep course on all things new grad nursing. So if this interests you and you're scared to death or you just want to get a leg up, we recommend that you guys kind of take advantage of what we got going on today. But either way, guys, we're at time, and thank you so much for all of your input. We had a great crew today on a bunch of hearts of gold here, and thank you so much, Allison.
Final tally right now.
Yeah.
Drum roll, please. Sharing the results. Public health
Whoa.
nursing, 43%. That is incredible.
Wow.
I agree. We have some, of course, people come to nursing because they have a kind heart and they want to help others. And you guys are showing that. And I love seeing that.
Yeah, me too. I'm really, really grateful for you guys. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
But
And I was gonna say, if anyone is interested in NCLEX support and NCLEX help,
oh yeah,
come see us tomorrow.
come on down tomorrow. I think we still have open houses. If you guys are taking your NCLEX, we go over every single NGN question you're going to face on the NCLEX. Professor Allison's a whiz at breaking these questions down. And we actually do some live breakdowns for you. And we actually show you how to set up your study plan. So it's all, I believe, free tomorrow, just like today. We're here to help you. So don't think we're trying to, launch or do anything that we wouldn't want to have in our lives. So we're here to help you. And come tomorrow if you're scared. And I always say, don't be scared, be prepared. All right,
Oh,
guys. Thanks so much.
oh yeah, the new grad course is for those who have passed NCLEX and are looking for jobs and advisement and whatnot.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. The new grad prep course is, yeah, everything you need to start your career as a new grad. From interview tips to resume builder to Us sitting down with hiring managers and they just spill the beans for us. They're like, this is the questions we ask. This is what we look for. Because a lot of the just getting a job is difficult. It's a whole game in and of itself. It's like you have to do the right things, dress the right way, have the right resume, stand out, answer the questions um, in succinct manner. And we did that. We got it from the horse's mouth, which is great. So that is what it's all about. And you get CUs for it, and you get a skills library for it, which is really cool. This is so nice. But appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining today. And thank you so much, Nurse Joe, for dropping those links in. And hey, Sarah, passed your NCLEX in 85. Congratulations. Woohoo. Excellent job. Oh, perfect. Tomorrow's cram session is called NCLEX Cram, and it's free. So click on it. We also have, I believe, recordings posted on YouTube if you can't make the time. But thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. And thank you, Chiki. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you. See you soon.
See y'all. Oh.